Welcome to the Relatable Oklahoma Realtors Podcast, the show that sets out to demystify the world of real estate. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, investor, or a realtor with years of experience, this is where real estate is discussed and explained. Join me now for our hosts, Stacy and Merle Stricker.
Here we are. I made it. Hi.
I'm so excited.
Morning, kids. How you doing?
You look amazing. I told you I was going to fix my hair, and it's rainy and windy here. So I was like, you're all fixed up.
Well, I would not have been ready except for my 10 o'clock cabinet delivery happened at 6 a.m. from Home Depot. So I was like, well, I got 4 hours before I got to do anything today. So I'm up. So I did actually put on makeup for you.
That is so disgusting. 6 a.m.
Every time.
No makeup for me.
No makeup. So this is Kendra Sims.
Hi, guys.
Kendra and I have been friends since middle school. That's been a long time. We both just missed our 30th reunion.
Yeah. So I guess you didn't go either.
No, we were on vacation. No. I saw you were on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a lot of our friends missed, but yeah.
I know.
That's all right. I talk to the ones I want to talk to. You and Jenny.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
and even some of the ones I don't want to talk to.
Right. So I did see some of those in the pictures. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So Kendra and I have been friends a long time, and kind of funny, we drifted apart because we had moved away, just like your normal. It just happens after high school. And then we both end up at, was it Shepherd Mall where they were doing it?
I think it was Shepherd Mall of all the things in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were in Tulsa at the time, and I had moved back to Norman. And we both were taking our real estate test at the same time and reconnected after, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
It had been several years. And I just remember we talked my whole drive home. It was 2 hours. We talked on the phone and just caught up about everything that had happened over all the years that we missed. We talked about all the friends, all the everything. And it was like we didn't even miss a beat. It just picked back up.
Yeah. Marriages, divorces,
kids, everything
yeah.
in between. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has been 20 years ago.
I know. Can you believe we've had our real estate license? I don't even feel like an adult yet. I'm still the fact that I've got a real job and people trust me is still just blows my mind because I still feel like a kid. So
you have kids, one in college.
I know.
One that's about to be a freshman, right? Marley's going to be a freshman.
Yep. Mara's going to be a freshman if she makes it through the rest of the summer.
That's how long-term friends are, though. You can go a year without talking and still, be good.
I had Kindra and Jenny and Catherine are those long-term friends.
Which, I think that friends from high school kind of thing is still a rarity. I have 2 friends from high school that I still talk to frequently. And I still think it's rare, though. I mean, you think about a 30-year friendship that lasts longer than any marriage.
I know.
I mean, it's through thick and thin. In other words, both of my friends, I can tell you, we fought, we've been mad, we've done all the things that a normal relationship would do, but yet we still
we're
still friends, still talk, still, and the personalities are so much different than probably all my other friends. In other words, I think that your friends evolve through kids later in life, or they evolve through work. But those friends, they just seem to be quite different than the ones that you currently have,
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. I have prom pictures with Stacy in them.
Kendra and I have some great stories. We had our first job together. Yeah.
Was it Mi Casino? Mi Casina. Yeah.
Casina Domino. Wasn't it
I don't
know.
Was it Casina?
We had to buy Mexican dresses from them and work in them.
It's awesome.
It was a fun job.
So, why don't you tell everybody kind of what you're doing, what your career job looks like right now, and just kind of give us a little background on what you're doing now.
Okay. So currently, I wear several hats. I currently am working for one of my investors, and I've been GCing all of his remodels. He just bought. Huh?
Everybody, what market you're in too?
I'm in Tulsa, northeastern Oklahoma market. So Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm sure, and I want to hear about the Elk City market also. But so here, it slowed down a little as far as housing sales. Remember last year when it was just crazy? You had to drop everything you were doing the moment a house went on the market. You waited outside for an hour and a half because there were 47 other showings. And then you had 24 hours before the offer deadlines and 17 competing offers and crazy. So it slowed down a little, which I am so happy about because it was very chaotic the past 2 years trying to get houses under contract for people. So as the market kind of slowed down, I think just with my remodel background, I had met some investors during that market time. And they asked me if I was interested in like GCing their remodel jobs. So currently the investor I'm working with, he bought a package of 14 houses, and we're just kind of going down the list, and I'll take 2 or 3 at a time and run his crews and do the design and remodels on it and just make sure everybody shows up at work and does their job. So I'm doing that, and I'm selling real estate and flipping one house right now.
So you're still doing your personal flips as well. You haven't let up on that.
No, I haven't done as many, I would say, the past year. This is my second one for the year. And I normally try to do 2 or 3 a year. And that was before I was doing GC work, though, and when the market was different. Right now, with the prices still being a little inflated and then rates going up, the margin for profit is quite a bit more slim than it has been over the past, 5 years. So
it is
just not as many good deals.
Interest rates have changed it. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Kendra, people are like super interested. I went yesterday to show, he's a friend of mine, but I went to another market, Ardmore area, and I went to show him different houses because he's looking at getting into flipping, and he's a young guy. And, I think that that people are very interested in like the formula of that success with flipping. And I like Stacy and I kind of, in our short time of doing it, we've developed kind of a formula of what we think works.
Not like a technical formula. Like we know what we want to profit in X amount of months. Like you were talking about, you don't go a hardcore, like what's the investor rule? We don't really do that.
Yeah. So I'm curious what's kind of your formula. When I say formula, like what the things you look for.
So my main thing is area. I am an old house nerd, so I love, bungalows and Craftsmans and Tudors and all the, I don't remodel new houses. I'll do them for other people, but I don't do them for myself because I just like the charm of an old house and just kind of bringing life back into something that's falling apart, basically. So I focus on area, and that has never led me astray because as long as I stay in an area, I know what numbers I'm going to pull. So, and, it used to be, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, I'd go into a house in my head. I could walk through and add up what I needed to do. And I just needed $100,000 margin. I in my head, I was like, okay, I can do an entire house remodel for 60 grand and then make 30 to 40 with a little bit of a oops fund, but it's not like that anymore because materials are so much more expensive and interest rates holding your loan. So really, I just kind of go in it was always, I needed to make about 30 grand off of it for it to be worth my time. I've had to relax on that a little bit. And now with my threshold, it's like 20 grand. It's not worth my time if I'm not going to make 20 grand on it. But at that 20 grand, I don't want to do any of the work. Like that's me hiring everyone out. When I first started flipping, I mean, I was the person that did all the painting, all the demo, refinished the floors. I mean, I've removed a roof before. Like I did all the horrible stuff. And I did a lot better money-wise. But then as I've gotten older, I don't want to do those things anymore. And I've got a good crew.
Well,
and
I've found conversations with my investors before, like, is it worth time for you to do all the work versus hiring it out? Because it takes longer for one person to do it than you hire it out. But now that comes up with interest rates because you're keeping it longer if you do it all yourself, right? Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
Well, so what I have found is that it about evens out if I can run multiple jobs at the same time. It all evens out in the end. But if I'm doing the work, I can't run multiple jobs if I'm painting and, demoing and stuff like that. So and a little bit of it is I've just gotten tired of manual labor, but I would prefer to just GC everything out and make less money on it, but do more jobs.
Yeah. I do really like that philosophy. Good on, on that last flip, I just did tons and tons of work.
Yeah.
And, part of it's like, I'm not the expert. That's also how I feel. It's like, I'm not the best painter. I'm not the best, there's people that are more professional. And, we're always talking.
Maybe our painter was.
Yeah, maybe. But we're always talking about how, like, I think that using an expert is like super important. Like if you're going to buy real estate, hire a real estate broker. And the same concept, I think, when it comes to the flipping. But like you said, if you got all the time in the world, then doing a lot of the work yourself makes sense. If you don't have multiple projects going on. So what, like when you mentioned supplies, and I'm like real curious about that, is that, I mean, are you going down to Home Depot and ordering all the stuff? Or, I mean, how are you doing supplies and like those things now?
So, I guess they call it like my contractor discount on everything. Yeah. So I go down to Home Depot or I go down to Lowe's and do like their volume savings program, like turn in a list of all the materials I need. And then I usually get about 10% off, which isn't great. We have some mom and pop stores here where I can get like lumber packages and things like that, where I get a little bit better discount. But I just have really, they kind of hook me up at Lowe's and Home Depot because I spend so much money there. And, and then I've just learned over the years where you can save. Like I usually do Amazon for like doorknobs and lighting and plumbing fixtures and things like that. That I can plan out ahead of time and don't need like spur of the moment.
So, but sent me some links on Amazon and I did order some stuff. So do you have like the same stuff that you use for the same houses? Cause you had those saved that you're like, here, use this.
So on my personal stuff, I usually try to mix it up because I don't want to do the same thing over and over. Right. But on my investor stuff, like they usually want to kind of stick to the same items. So, I like Delta. So I've got all the shower kits in every color that I like. And, I've used them all different times and I just keep them saved. And those are kind of my go-tos on the things that I know are, good quality. And I know I like the product and,
like, so easier for your installers and that kind of stuff
I always get the same kind of valves and things like that. It just makes it easier.
Yeah.
What about like you were talking about your crew? So tell me how that's developed. Like, because I know it's very difficult to find good people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and like even me trying to find help during the flip, it's like I'd need help with a certain project that may be flooring or something that I was working on.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have a very difficult time. And what I ran into is like one or two things. It's like, if I found somebody, they almost wanted to like do the subcontract, but they wanted to make quite a bit of money instead of like, in other words, it's by the hour kind of deal,
Yeah.
or they wanted to charge me a certain amount. And it really seemed to be like, it seemed to be pretty difficult to like get a crew together and then be able to keep it, and where it seemed to work money wise. How does that work for you?
I have gone through many crews. When I first started, I had 2 guys, and they probably went through 3 or 4 flips with me, and they were great. And I paid them each $15 an hour. And I mean, it was wonderful.
How long ago?
I know it was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely the wages have changed.
Yeah.
But we all, like, they were just handymen, and they lived in a small town about 45 minutes away from Tulsa. So they drove in every day. But as we worked together, like, they had babies and things like that, needed more income. And I kind of felt the pressure to always have something going when I'm helping people, put food on their table. And I kind of went through a couple of years where I was a little bit burned out and just needed a break. Didn't want to constantly be doing flips because, it wears on you a little bit. And so they went off and got great jobs and did their own thing. But I would say probably the best people I have, I've got this guy, Jerry, and he's in his 70s. He's a carpenter, used to build houses when he was much younger. And he's been working with me for about 4 years. And we fight like cats and dogs. He's a grumpy old man. He thinks I'm a diva, but we love each other. I mean, he's just the sweetest guy ever. And he can do anything. He's so talented. And then he's my main guy that I've kept with me, that I always have on every job. But other than that, I just go to the plumbers and the electricians and the HVAC guys that I've used for a long time. And how I've acquired most of my subs is just being in real estate and needing them for like repairs on TRRs and, updating listings and things like that. And so Jerry's really the only person I keep as like a full-time kind of employee, because he doesn't want to work full-time. So he'll just work as needed. So it works out well for me, but it is very hard.
Break when you are too, like when you finish the house. That's perfect.
It is perfect. And the biggest mistake I think I've made with subs is I like to help people get started. So like, I'll help them get started. I'll send business their way. And then they get so busy that they don't have time for me anymore. Right. That has happened to me so many times. So, but I have a pretty good group of guys. As they get busy, it's harder to get them scheduled, but
yeah,
I kind of have my little circle.
Right.
But there's a lot more contractors in Tulsa than I'm sure in Elk City.
Yeah, that's what we struggle with, for sure. Burl and his son, Tyler, did the bulk of the work, and they did a great job. And then I would come in and be like, this is what we need to do. Like, can we do this up or whatever? Because, looking at it from a realtor's perspective is very different, because how a buyer is going to nitpick it.
Yes.
Because they
nitpick it to death.
Yes. And so, and it was really hard because they had done an amazing job, because we paid, you saw the before picture, like $15,000 for this house, and it was rough. So I'd go in there and they had done an amazing job, but then I'm trying to put on the realtor hat and say, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this, but you've done a great job. But I don't want to look like the nagging wife that had killed it. I've got to post our finished product, because we didn't even have to put it on the market.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. So tell me about so Burl, what did you learn? Was this your first time kind of doing a remodel, or had you done
some kind of in the past, but it was more I definitely was in the rental game a lot more in the past, which at this point, I don't like rentals at all, just because I've owned a couple of apartment complexes, and I just felt like I was constantly repairing, constantly trying to collect rent, and really, if I wasn't on top of it, then it was just
that's how we met, is I had sold his rental property.
Yeah. So
well, and the rental game is so different, because when you're flipping, it's a whole different scale of what you need to do for a rental.
Right.
Like in our situation, we don't have a Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's definitely one of the mistakes, because when we start going through the receipts, I would run down to the local Ace, like probably every day, if not multiple times a day, because I need this or that. And when you start to look at it, it's, we want to support those local businesses, but also you start to look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, I really overpaid. Sheetrock, for example, like we really needed to take a trailer and go down to Oklahoma City, and we needed to order a bunch of sheetrock. And so, but like sheetrock was a big mistake, because I actually bought most of it local, and the price difference was crazy.
It was what did we look at, like $7?
I mean, it was like at least $5 or $7 a sheet higher. And in this particular case, we had we almost replaced every piece of sheetrock in this house.
Oh my God.
So when you start to realize it's like that bulk item are super important. But then it's also easy to, as you go down to the local every single day to buy this and that. And, part of it's like, I didn't have every single tool, because this was like our first flip. So literally buying tools as well. And so those things, it's like being a lot more thoughtful about, buying, and like where we're getting it, the price we're getting. I mean, you mentioned Amazon. It's like, you could literally, because Amazon's shipping so fast, that, it's like we probably could have waited a day or two, did the Amazon order instead, and just been a lot more mindful about,
like some stuff we're very mindful, like the light fixtures and tile and that kind of stuff. But the little things like the sheetrock, like when you're in the middle of the project, you can't stop what you're doing and go drive an hour and a half one way. That is. So that's where it's like, I need, 2 sheets of sheetrock before the painter gets here to texture to finish this room or whatever. So
I got sick of going into Ace. I literally, no joke, went there every day, multiple times a day sometimes. And I'm curious about, and this really from like being married to Stacy and being from her perspective, and also like my daughter's perspective, I think about it. Was there times when you struggle, like where you're the general contractor on things, and like, because you're dealing with a lot of men, and them are doing the work, and with really them like looking at
never listening
as the authority figure in this, you know what I mean? Was there struggles with that, and how did you overcome that?
So I want to rewind for a second, and if you guys continue to do flips, I want to offer a little piece of advice that I have learned. So I don't know if you have like a barn, a storage shed. I had to build a storage shed, or like rent a offsite storage or something. But I would say if like every year right before Thanksgiving, Home Depot has a huge sale on appliances. You can get like an entire appliance package for under $2,000. So I will buy up the appliance packages and just store them. Or maybe you guys could like rent a U-Haul and go down and just load up on things when they're on sale, and like keep them in storage so you have them readily available at a better price, like drywall. Just keep like 10 sheets of drywall on hand.
That's a great
things like that. And as you continue to do it, you'll know what you're going to need the most of. And like if I see toilets on sale, I'm always going to need a toilet. So I stock up, and it really does help. Also, you guys being kind of removed from the bigger box stores, just to have stuff on hand. Like you were saying about Ace, like everyone in Home Depot and Lowe's knows my name. Like I have I have customers ask me where things are at because they think I work there. And I'm just like, no. But, okay. So to your question.
Well, and I want to just put it, I know that's true. You know, we put an offer on a commercial building. It didn't work out, but part of it is that I'm already seeing it, like with this first flip, there's stuff out in the barn. Like there was an extra light, extra this, and realizing that it's beneficial to have a place to store that stuff. And then, so I've already seen that, and I completely agree.
That's a great tip. Yeah, that's a great tip for others too. We just built a chicken coop, and we didn't have to buy anything but the wire and paint because we used all like leftover materials.
Yeah.
Our son's roofing projects and then ours.
Yeah.
I mean, it really comes in handy. Like my guys had the code to my garage, and like I remember about 2 years ago, there was a shortage on like electrical boxes, like your old work and new work, little just electrical boxes. And there was one point where I was doing a house and they were $9 a piece. They used to be 58 cents.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when they got replenished, I went in and bought 2 boxes. So I have like 24 of each. And I ended up paying like $2 a box. But I've got shelves in my garage, and the guys know they can just come in, use my code when they need to, you know, and get wire or whatever. So I've got my own little shopping thing, which helps in a pinch for sure.
That's good. So we do have a house under contract. We were supposed to close on it last month, but they have title issues.
Yeah.
Trying to fix
that'll give you time to get your material list and get all your ducks in a row.
That's a good point. We should be working on that.
All right. So to the question that you were talking about.
Yes. So for instance, Jerry, the first time I met Jerry, we showed up at a flip house and I told him what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of people don't take me serious because I'm a woman. You know, I'm 5'2", like I'm just like a little elf, you know, like nobody really thinks that I can do anything. But because I know
you're a Spitfire. So she's not going to
I'm a Spitfire. I'm like a little dynamite in this little, you know, short body. But from dealing with just like real estate repairs and stuff for so long.
Right.
I mean, and I'm sure you do too, Stacey, like I know like how a water heater needs to be installed and just, you know, things like that. And so the first day I met Jerry, I was telling him all these things I wanted to do with like a header and, you know, making the ceiling flush. And he was like, that can't be done. And I was like, it can be done. And he was like, that can't be done. And I was like, I've literally done it before. It can be done. And then the first thing is he was like, listen here, little girl. I've built houses longer than you've been alive. And that it kind of rubbed me the wrong way at first, but he's just a different generation. So we ended up, you know, everything was fine. And of course we were able to do what I needed to do, but it is very hard. And I think that I've made a name for myself where people know I know what I'm talking about. But the first several years, I mean, it was hard. Like nobody, you know, people want to give me bids for things. I'm like, well, why is this 3 times more expensive than it should be? Like, because they just don't think I know what I'm talking about, but I do. So I have to, every once in a while, I got to put these boys in place.
And it's a fine line. Like, you don't want to come across like hateful because you want to work with them and have a good relationship. Because some people are like, you need to put them in their, like what you're saying, put them in their place, but you can't be hateful about it, you know.
And I think one of the biggest, for me, the most helpful thing is that, you know, I go to work dirty every day. I come home dirty every day. Like I get in there and do it. Right. And I think that I've earned some respect that way. You know, I'm not just telling them what to do and then, you know, going and getting a coffee at Starbucks. Like I'm in there getting dirty. I'm learning. And I don't know. I think it goes a long way with them if you're willing to, learn how to do it and understand. And I just think I've earned a respect over the many years I've been doing this, but it wasn't always that way.
So
I do have to use my outside voice every once in a while.
Mother, you know. How many flips have you done? Do you know? Off the top of your head?
So I started in 2015 and I try to do 2 to 3 a year. So what year are we in? 23? I've probably done 15-ish or so. I mean, I don't even, I guess I should know. I don't know. I
don't really keep track of that kind of stuff either.
Keep track of how many houses I sell.
And so you guys need to, Kendra said this like 1,000 times to her. I've stopped saying it. Like, she does not have a business Facebook page, but Kendra is also very funny. And so, wait, no, you did start one. We're not promoting it. You finally
I did start one. It lasted like 1 month, and then I just got too busy to deal with it. And then I forget all my passwords on everything, and I can't access. I mean,
we can hire someone to do that.
Right? I can also hire a bookkeeper, and I still haven't done that.
Yeah, remember I gave you Catherine's number, who's been on this podcast, by the way.
I love Catherine. It's because I'm still living in the 80s.
Yeah, get out of it.
I know. I've got to.
Do you struggle finding flip houses? Because whenever I went to go show my friend in Ardmore, we went and looked. We've been looking, online through the MLS and just before I even went there. And then so I gathered 5 houses or 6 and said, let's go look at these. And then I drove down there. And I feel like there's not a lot there. It's okay, these are not great choices. And they have a situation where they and I don't know how many other towns do this. I'd never really seen it exactly like this. If the city drives by and there's broken windows and nobody lives there kind of thing, they'll condemn the house.
They condemn it pretty quick.
They condemn it. And then you have a year to get it back to, whatever. And so a couple of the houses we looked at were literally condemned. And actually the one of the houses, I mean, not much different than, our last flip originally, how it initially started. So I think they were similar, but I feel like there's I can see from his point of view, he really wants to go, this is his first flip. And again, he's a young guy. And so I'm struggling finding something for him. Plus the for us, the prices are a lot higher there than they are here. And so how do you deal with that? It seems like you're still consistently getting we even had a hard time coming up with our second one and trying to find one.
We ended up spending more than what we wanted, but I still think the profit will be there. That's the big thing. It's trying to get the profit.
Yeah. Well, I've been very blessed with that. In the beginning, it was just looking on MLS. And then here we have auctions, and then every Tuesday there's a tax or a sheriff's sale.
Right.
And I've gone to some of those, and I've purchased some houses off of auction. But I would say probably the last 5 years, just people knowing that I have this one area I love. It's called Brookside. So I do most of my stuff in Midtown. They just bring me houses. Most of my stuff is off market that, people, my neighbors wanting to sell and things like that. So I've been very lucky in that regard. Because right now what's on MLS, it's still too high. The prices are still too high to really make anything.
Right. This one and you have built a reputation for yourself. And I think too, just to back up before I say this, Kendra's really pushed it too, where appraisals, I remember you stressing about appraisals in the beginning, having conversations I know I'm pricing this high. And I've worried about that too, because nobody wants an appraisal to come in low. No,
I know.
I feel like I'm always more conservative. I do go off of what does the market say? Where's the proof? This is what the numbers. But so then we do try to push it. And I know you have done that. And so you have raised values. You don't skimp on your on your flips or find
So
that
I always,
buyer?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, or you find that cash buyer, which is great.
So when I first started, I mean, and how I first started being able to do flips is when I got divorced, I moved into a rent house that we had bought for my mom, and I lived there. And instead of going out with the money I had made on my house that I had left, I used that money to buy a rental, because I'd been helping my investors for years buy houses and helping them find contractors and giving them ideas on what to do and making people all this money. And I'm like, well, why am I not? I'm making 3%, which I'm very grateful for, but I could be making a lot more than that. So I decided to live in my rental house and fix it up. And that, with my background in real estate, I Googled a lot of stuff, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and kind of learned how to do this stuff. Then I went in with cash, and I bought my first on my own, my first rental for $20,000. And I put $50,000 in it, and I did it all cash. And it came back, it appraised at $50,000 more than what I had put into it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've got this house and it's worth, to me, was what $125,000 was a lot of money to me, and then, so my lender was like, you should run a line of credit. And that never occurred to me. Well, I had a ton of equity in the rental I had because we had paid it down and I had done the work myself, updating it. And so I did a line of credit, which is what helped me with the flip, getting that going. But I don't even remember what the question was. Why did I go off on this tangent? Does anyone remember?
We're talking about appraisals.
Yes. Appraisal. So for the most part, I've been very lucky. My appraisals have come in really good. But when I started, that's what I was getting at, is I would buy in these areas that were just right outside of really good areas, or like by the university, or, just the expansion of things, it has to move outward. So I would try to do these little cheap areas that were by the good areas, so it would be within my mile for a comp. And then I would buy several houses in the same neighborhood and create my own comp. So I'd price one this, and then I'd, inch it up a little more on the next one. And so I created my own comps, which is what really, really helped me in the beginning. Wow. I will say this past year, I have, I'm sucking in the appraisal world. My last flip came in $30,000, well, $28,000 less than an appraisal I got on it for a construction loan. I got an appraisal for a construction loan, and it took me longer to do the flip than I expected. So
that's terrible.
It came in $28,000 less. And then once I paid, realtor fees and closing costs, it was the only time I haven't made money on a flip in all the years I've done this. And that one I closed out in March.
Were you did the buyer come up and say, we'll split the difference? I don't know how that works in your market, because we ran into that too. If
it's a couple thousand, I could see it, but nobody's bringing $28,000 to a table. No. And it was just the matter of the market declining, rates going up in that 7 months. And I just missed my 6-month window to have my own appraisal to back it up. Mm-hmm. So, I had worked on that property for a while, and I was just kind of done with it. And my attitude on flips is you win some, you lose some. And I've been very fortunate. I win most of them. So I was like, I'm just going to walk away from this one. And it was a first time home buyer couple. And, I said, I'm not going to do any repairs, and we'll just call it even. I'm not paying any closing costs. You're on your own, but I'll lower the price of the house. So I did.
That's good.
So
on your taxes.
So
it'll help you on your taxes.
If I need to get around to doing those. But
hey, I've got to back up. I started to talk about this earlier, but you reminded me of the rental house that you had for your mom. So Kendra and her humor are something else. This is why we talked about the Facebook page so much, because you had redone this rental house for your mom when she moved to
Tulsa. That's all I got to say.
Decoupage, right? Decoupage. So then
decoupage cabinets.
Yeah. So then she moves out, and like Kendra said, then she goes in and redoes it for her to move in after her divorce. So freaking funny, still hilarious. Kendra, you've got to get back on your business page, because all of us love your humor, and it's just so entertaining because you're so good at telling stories for it to come to life through Facebook. That's what's so funny. So I know people listening to this are going to want to hear like your stories, because you tell lots of stories. You show pictures like your hoarder house, and you talk about Jerry, the guy that works for you. You've got to put this on your business page and get it back out there. You have.
I know. What is wrong with me?
Marley can run this for you. Marley has a sense of humor and has done videos in the car.
Yeah, Marley's funny. She really is.
And I think, like, going back to what you were saying, like location on your flip houses, that is so important. Because when I've worked with investors, or like, what about this house? I'm like, no, like the neighborhood is terrible. You cannot have the best house in the worst neighborhood.
And I think a lot of people go in just looking at price.
Yeah.
And that follows you on the tail end of it, because if it's not desirable enough for you to have to pay a decent price in the beginning, what makes you think you're going to sell it? I mean, you could do so many updates, but location is key. You can't change a neighborhood value.
You can't. So that translates to like your days on market. Trying to sell it. It'll just sit there. I mean, yes, it will eventually sell, but your carrying costs get really high.
Yes. And one thing about the Midtown area that I love, and I've only driven through Elk City, so I don't know how you guys are laid out, but it's like the older part of town.
How long have I lived here and you've never been out here?
I know I did drive through though on my way to Yellowstone.
And y'all didn't stop, and I could have met your new boyfriend.
Well, so just let me tell you, I didn't even know we were going through Elk City. I saw a sign and I took a picture of it on my phone, and I was going to send it to you, but it was like 6 a.m. and then I forgot all about it. I wanted to be like, hey, like I literally didn't know if we were going north, south, east, or west. I wasn't driving clearly, but yeah, so I had no idea we were going through Elk City. I would have brought you
on the way back. Did you come back through Elk City?
We didn't come back to Elk City. We came back to Oklahoma City. Sorry.
I want to go back to what we're talking about. Like, if people are listening and like helping them, like know what to look for if they are interested in flipping. Like the first thing, the location. You both made it very clear that location's important. Like you, I like that you. I think it's a great strategy that I'm in this niche. I'm this area of Tulsa, and this is an area that's important to me. And so I love that. And then, I want to talk a little bit about the price, because price is, like you said, people have a tendency to look at price first, and I understand that. And I think in the beginning, you start maybe at a $20,000 house. Like our first flip, we bought for 15. So, but I would assume you're not playing at that level anymore of like $15,000, $20,000 house. So I'm curious how you think about price now. And then also, is there any other factors that when you look for a flip that you're like, okay, this is important to me, besides location, obviously the price. And then, I'm also part of that. I think about, I think, that you have a very unique situation where you are, like you said, you're getting off market properties, which that takes a reputation that takes, inside information. Most normal people, I think that's definitely something to work toward and say, okay, like I wonder even about that situation with like Stacy and I, because, small town, like, I think people see as a seller, let's say, they see dollar figures and then it's like, okay, Stacy's a realtor. So they think that way. So I don't see them calling saying, hey, off market, let Stacy buy this so she can possibly flip it. So I'm curious about those too.
Stacy sells a lot more real estate than I do also. So I've kind of gone more, I think people, they know I'm a realtor, but I post stuff on Facebook and every day people see me out there working on houses. So I think that it just comes to mind. I don't think people, when they think of realtor, they think of me as much as they do as like general contractor or flipper. So I think that that's why people bring me things. And then also, there's almost 5,000 realtors in Tulsa. So you guys are in a much smaller market. Stacy has a brokerage, that's kind of what you are. So you just have to get people knowing that you're in the flipping business and you got to post all your stuff.
The world does the flips. I'm a realtor too.
The world is in the flipping business. Yeah. Stacy's in the nitpicking business.
Right. But other realtors bring you houses too, right?
They do. Yeah. I get a lot of people that bring me their parents' house, and it's like an emotional thing for them, and they know I'm not gonna tear it down, or I'm very respectful. Like I always try to keep the old house charm with making it like modern conveniences. Like I update the kitchen.
You bring up a great point because I'm thinking about one particular house that you have listed that literally, the parents lived lived in. The kids are trying to sell it. It's super outdated. Outdated.
On that house. I mean, I've had to, where I did a house a couple of years ago and it was a realtor in my office, and it was her mom's house. Huh?
This is the one on the cul-de-sac. If not, I want you to tell that story.
Which house on the cul-de-sac?
One on the cul-de-sac that you made the offer and it was lower, but they still went with you because you were going to restore it or something.
Oh, that's the house I have right now. Yeah, that's a whole different story. I'll tell you that in a second. But it was her mom's house. Her mom died suddenly. The sister lived across the street. I think it was personal to them. They didn't want some people they didn't know coming in and ripping everything out. Well, they asked me if I would be interested in it. And, they were I knew the other realtor from my office. And I told her, I was like, the number you gave me just doesn't work. I was like, I'd love to do it, but I got to have this margin. And I just showed her my budget. And I said, it's not like I'm making a lot of money off of this. Here's my money that I'm making because it's worth my time. But I was like, this is just where I am as a real estate deal. So they came back to me a couple of days later and they were like, and it was like a $20,000 difference than what they were going to list it for. And she was like, we'll do it, but we want to keep the 2 hydrangea bushes in the back and take off the door frame where we marked all of our kids' heights as they grew up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, take it all, take anything you want. And I'll replace anything that you take. And they came in and they took what was important to them and it worked for them. They were happy. I made what I needed to make on the house. And I think it's all relationships. It is just all relationships.
I'm telling you, but maybe for you, this is to me, it was like a very aha moment in what you're saying, because I think that is a great opportunity to look for those. But because of that emotional attachment, though, I think you got to be able to work through that emotional attachment. And people aren't patient enough or willing to work through that emotional attachment. Yeah. But I think that's a great opportunity and a niche to look at, instead of this is an old rental that they destroyed it and let's start, rebuilding it. But the problem with those is when you're looking at nice neighborhoods, there's not rentals off, people destroying houses in nice neighborhoods, normally it's and so that's the struggle, but I think this is a great niche, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like you were saying, people looking at Stacy as like the realtor and it being more and stuff. So many times I've gotten houses and had the lower bids because I just present my budget to people. I think people think that realtors make a ton of money and that flippers make a ton of money. That is not the case always. So, I mean, I'm just very honest. I am an open book. I'm transparent. I'll show you my budget. I'll show you what I'm making.
Yeah.
And then if you think you can put it on the market and make more, go right ahead. If you don't, in a couple months, call me. And if I'm still interested, we'll make it work. I mean, I think people just, want to know they're not being taken advantage of. And if you,
I think that, being open and, just being very transparent, I think that's something that is missing in a lot of the professional world anyway, like whether you're talking about lawyers or whether you're talking about real estate. And I think that people respect that. So I think that's a great.
You want to make it easy for people.
Well, yeah, you do. And I kind of think like with this house that we're under contract with, we did the same thing. I was like, hey, obviously as, realtor, we're having to disclose we're the buyers. And I said, I know this is a low offer, but we're looking at it for a flip and, just, we don't want to be offensive. And they didn't take the offer at first. And I knew it was overpriced, but then she came back to us a month later and was like, would you take this offer? Mm-hmm. Okay. And really we had in the back of our minds that we would pay more than what we initially had, but they were pretty defensive because of our offer. But
sometimes people just need to sit on it for a while.
I totally agree.
Is there a price that you're looking at right now? Like, is there a price range?
The price range I want or the price range that exists?
Yeah.
Well, let her answer this one first. I'm curious what you're planning right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
The most expensive flip I've bought?
Yeah.
Well, so I reminisce of the days when I paid $20,000 for houses. Around 100 is what it has been my entire flipping career up until 2020. So 100,000 became 200,000. So my buy-in, my as is crappy house, I normally pay about 200,000 and sell around 4.
So it's doubled both sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same. It's doubled both sides. I'm making a little less just because things like my holding costs are more, taxes are more, all the things, that I don't get to control. But the risk, I don't like having that much money out.
And we've talked about this, like your line of credit, how it affects our credit score when we borrow this and, okay. So we've talked about this too, because I do use stories like we've talked like what you've taught me, because I've learned so much just from you. And so this last house we borrowed, we tried not to use any of our own money. So we borrowed on the house and then we borrowed extra to do the flip. Well, guess what? We went way over budgets, like the heat
happens every time.
Right. So we need to account for that. So then we're, using our own money. And so I'm like, okay, I don't think Kendra uses all of her. I've got to figure this out and I need to talk to her about it. So what are your thoughts on like how you do you have like one credit card that maybe you get points on and then you pay it off at the end instead of you're not taking into your own?
So you're doing construction loans, right?
So no, we're doing it all. It's a local bank that's holding it all.
Okay. So I do a construction loan, and as I've done this, I have learned I hope nobody I know is listening. I super inflate my budget and it to about $10,000 so that I have a little cushion. So I have an inflated budget, and my bank, because they know me, they allow me, how you got to put, for me, it's just 10% down. They'll loan me 90% value. They let me do mine on the back side, and they do the 90 up front, which on a normal construction loan, it's usually an 80-20, and the buyer has to put 20 down first, and then the bank kicks in their 80. So what I do is I overinflate, which usually makes up the difference of what I would have had to come in on the backside with. So I don't have to bring any of my own personal money. But yes, I have one credit card that is actually in my own personal name because I've had it forever and it has a decently high limit. I need to get a business card, but I don't like credit cards. So I only have two in my life, a business one and a personal one. And my business one, I mean, it's ridiculous. I will keep everything on it and I will not pay it off as I go so that I have more liquid if I need that to pay labor. But yes, usually by the time I'm done with a flip, I probably have $20,000 on this credit card. And then I pay it all off when I sell the house. But yes, so my credit score is always like up and down because some days I have no credit card debt. Some days I have 50,000. You just never know. Yeah. So it does kind of make it crazy.
Kind of answered a question that I was wanting to know, which is about the financing part of it. You know, that the financing part scares a lot of people. But I think that like for me, I think local bank is, I think building that relationship is super important because like, I mean, we can even see it between two local banks here. It's like one, I always look at it like you have these two banks and one is more risk averse than the other. And sometimes it's like they quickly do a deal and that speed is like crazy important too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found something. I want to make an offer. And, you know, sometimes some banks will be like, oh, I'll get you, you know, what you need down, you know, later. But then you really need that bank that's going to get it for you right now so you can make the offer. And then, you know, same thing. It's like you don't want a lot of delays in closing or a lot of paperwork. It's not really just paperwork, but it's more of like you don't want a lot of hoops to jump through to get this deal to go through. And there is a huge difference even in a local, like here, there's a huge difference between what one bank may require and what another bank
there really is.
I used the same bank for a really long time and I had a great team there. And I would just email the processor for the lender, my loan officer, and I'd be like, hey, can you move 10,000 over? And she would do it. But I had done business with them for like 5 or 6 years. And I had all my rental mortgages at that bank and my, 5 or 6 personal accounts. And so they knew me. I knew everybody that worked in the bank and it was so great. And then 2 years ago, the loan officer left because the bank was getting a little more strict. It was a local bank. And then so the processor left and went to a different bank and they gave me a new person. And all of a sudden this lady, where before I could be like, hey, I'm going to write an offer on a $200,000 house. And he'd be like, okay, do it. Send me the contract. And that was it. So I just kind of thought that's how it worked, but that is apparently not how it works. So when they gave me this new lady, she was like, well, I'm going to need to see the contract. I'm going to need you to turn in all your taxes. And I'm like, okay, well, 1, I haven't done my taxes. 2, I haven't written a contract. Like, what do you mean? You need paperwork? And then she was like, and I'll need 7 to 10 business days. And I'm like, I have 2 hours to make this offer. I do not have 7 to 10 business days. You know, this is 2020 when everything was berserk. And, then they wanted invoices before they would give me money. You know, I would need them to transfer over this amount. And she'd be like, well, I have to have an invoice. You need to total it up, but, which is how it should be. But I had just been, done it the easy way for so long. So that has been a challenge to me because I am horrible at paperwork. So I just have a little receipt bag that I throw all my receipts in. And then at the end of the month, I'll itemize them up and send them over for a draw. But It's much easier to use your own money when you don't have to like have a paper trail and like ask people for things.
Yeah.
Very different.
That's like one of my advice to people when they ask me questions about, the financing part and how to do it. It's like, you really, number one, local. I mean, if you're going through like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, you're not going to get that kind of treatment. But I mean, it's just too long, too slow, too much red hoops.
Yeah.
But then, just that building of that relationship is it's so important. And, I've done a lot of deals. I'd say most of the commercial deals that I've done was no money down. I did not have to put money in my own pocket, but that also is dealing with like that same thing, the local where you have a relationship, it's way different with that. But it takes time to build that.
It does. Yeah.
So do you guys just go down and say, hey, I'm going to buy a house. This is my budget. And they're like, okay. And then do you do draws?
No, they gave us the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I also know like with this,
but we're talking about probably a lot lower. Yeah. We're talking about 100,000.
Yes. So that was where I was about to go. Is so I know the loan officers can make a decision without having to go to committee if for anything over 100,000.
Yeah.
So it does. So if it's over 100,000, they have to go to like their committee to get approval. So they hold it. So like our last flip was like 6 months.
Yeah.
And so, but it nothing was due until we closed.
Yeah. And that was
that's good.
Yeah.
So are you guys going to continue to flip? Like, is this the new business? Are you the next, who are they? Joe?
It's so funny. We were just in Waco.
We went to Waco.
Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you Chip and Joanna?
No.
Yeah. We are Burl and Six. What we really want to do, what we like is, like this last house we did, it had some hidden gems, which we absolutely loved. And it was like on the cuff of like, we loved the location, where it was like in a good spot in the lot and everything is we fixed up an older house.
Yeah. Like in other words, actually bringing value to the community as well, to the neighborhood, to the community. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing when you looked at the first, what you see, the house and then it's like, wow. And the change. And like, even when I drove by it the other day, I was like, wow, it makes the neighborhood look so much better. And,
And so we ran into him at Ace over the weekend. So this house had original hardwood floors, the things that you and I love. So Burl sanded it probably 8 times. He put linoleum over the hardwood. I got in the truck and I was like, he did what? Then he's like,
wait, the guy that bought it?
Yes. So he put linoleum, he pulled out the tile.
It pulled out some tile. We had the tile like in the dining area because it had linoleum in the kitchen. And so there was a section, I can't remember, that we could not restore.
Yes. So we ended up doing tile there and he pulled up the tile, put back linoleum, hardwood floors.
Like a wood linoleum on top of the original hardwood floors.
And then carpet on top of hardwood floors. And it was,
it just brightens up the place.
It was definitely, I was like, wow. And then I think about all the struggles I had with that floor and
the sander. Oh my God. He had to sand it 8 different times because it was in bad shape.
Well, Kendra, how, if people are interested in like, I know y'all talked a little bit about the Facebook or whatever, but I think that somebody listening may want to follow you or reach out to you or whatever.
Consulting.
Yeah. And so how would somebody get a hold of you or like whether it's social media or how would you suggest that they get a hold of you?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess social media, like Facebook.
You could blurt your phone number out. You are a realtor.
I am a realtor. Okay. Well, my phone number is 918-798-2780. But I would say probably the easiest way is just to friend me on Facebook. I do have clients that will say, hey, my friend is going to friend you on Facebook. So make sure you accept them so that they can just watch all my
junk. It's amazing to me still how much friend requests are just junk. You know what I mean?
And I don't accept, like, if I'm not going to sit down and have a beer with you, I don't want to be your friend on Facebook. No, I'm just very
problem with LinkedIn. Like I think there is some value in like LinkedIn, but gosh, I get so much junk, like trying to sell you. I call it wanting to sleep with you before you even know. They're like, hey, I'll sell you this, and it's like, it's annoying, So,
yeah.
So on Facebook, how do they find you?
I think it's Kendra Sims, isn't it, Stacy? I don't know.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Yeah, I think so. And she's really funny and talented.
So. We really appreciate you.
Yes, I know you're super busy. I'm going to look at Kindra Sims, and it's Sims.
There you go.
Thank you. I know you're so busy. It's been fun. And you're super talented.
It has been fun. I'm so glad I got to see you guys. I miss you.
You too. I'm proud of you. You're killing it.
I'm proud of you guys. Okay, well, congratulations on everything, and keep us updated on your new flip.
We will. All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.